Hi, everybody. This is Kathleen from A Great Good Place for Books, and I am going to welcome you to our nonfiction night. We're going to tell you about some of our favorite books of the season. We've got Mike here, we've got Sam, and we've got Sarah and me. I'm going to turn it over to Samantha and let her start out. And welcome.
Hello, everybody. This has been so much fun, this whole we're doing with these recommendation nights. And I'm back here in the bookstore. It's really kind of fun to be here after hours. I have quite a few books to talk about. And I think I'm going to start really quickly by giving another shout out to a book we already talked about, but we really think this is going to be one of the best gift books this season, The 99% Invisible City, A Field Guide to the Hidden World of Everyday Design. And if you're familiar with the podcast, I had no idea about this book. I had never heard of it until customers started coming in to talk about it. So I've started listening to the podcast as well, of course. It's just a beautiful book, and it's got sections on architecture, infrastructure, and it's also got really great illustrations as well. So perfect gift book for anyone who's just kind of like an information, nerd, obsessive person. Perfect book for that. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to a book. I have only dipped my toe into this one, but Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. It's sort of a self-help book. It's kind of his collection of his journal entries from when he was really young and just the soul searching he's done throughout his entire life. I have a really dear friend who about a month ago recommended that I listen to it. And she said, this book's amazing. And in the past month, she has turned her life around. So I don't know if Matthew McConaughey gets all the credit, but if I could spend more time and tell you about the transformation in her life, it's very inspiring. So this one is a really interesting read. And then I think maybe, because I have sort of two sections, so maybe Sarah, if you want to do a couple, and then I'll kind of hit a couple of my other sections.
Sure, I love that you're coming to us live from GGP.
Live from GGP.
All right. It's okay. So the first book that I wanted to highlight is David Sedaris is one of my favorite writers. I first read his stuff when I was in college working at Bookshop Santa Cruz. And The Best of Me is like he did previously with his book where he mined his journals. He did Theft by Finding, where he mined his own personal journals. He's going back through all of his fiction and nonfiction essays and picking the best from the last 25 years. So I love David. I think he's hilarious. I also think he is super insightful. And I've only read the first few, but I'm loving the glance back at previous Davids and look forward to seeing how it evolves.
Nice. And Beth informs us that she's reading it right now.
Yeah. Yay. All right. And the other book, I'd only brought a few books home, but I also wanted to give a shout out to the 99% Invisible. I bought that for my brother-in-law already, and have to keep my husband's hands off it. So this is Always Home. It's by Fanny Singer, who is the daughter of Alice Walker. Sorry, not Alice Walker. The other Alice.
Alice Waters.
Alice
Waters.
Of Japanese fame. And it too is a bunch of essays. She's 30 years old, so she's not, in my mind, quite old enough to write a memoir. And I think this is, honestly, it's got recipes, photos, and it's really a love letter to her mother and what it was like growing up being Alice Waters' daughter, traveling and having the most gourmet lunchboxes you can imagine. She includes in here a picture of instructions when she was left at 11 when her mom went traveling with how to pack her lunch, which includes like a small vinaigrette. I mean, it's really, it's got beautiful details. She's a great writer. She's an editor in her own right. And the photos are lovely. And I think it's good for mothers, daughters, foodies, travelers. It's really a lovely book.
Oh, wonderful. Should I jump in?
Yeah, because I don't have that many more to go back.
Oh, okay, so maybe I will do, okay, I'm gonna do my next pile, which are books that I'm actually have read or am currently reading. And I'm going to start with my new obsession, which is all Sarah's fault. Dolly Parton is my new obsession. Sarah recommended that I listen to the podcast, Dolly Parton's America. I'm gonna give a shout out to the podcast. Everyone should listen to it. And this beautiful little book, tiny, perfect little book, is called She Come By It Natural, Dolly Parton and the Women Who Lived Her Songs. It's by Sarah Smarsh, who is the author of Heartland. And Heartland was nominated, I think, was a finalist for the National Book Award. And Heartland was her deep dive into the working poor in rural America. She hails from. And so I think she identifies very strongly with Dolly Parton's background. As she said, she was poor, but not Dolly Parton poor, but she also, you know, worked from a very young age and really admires and respects the message that Dolly Parton sings about. Oh, Amy joined us. Hi. So I have not finished this book, but I'm really enjoying it. Sarah's a wonderful writer, and I'm just obsessed with Dolly Parton. So I had to share that one with you guys. This book we've had for a while. It's called Having and Being Had. The author is Eula Biss. And the quote I really liked was, she examines our assumptions about class and property and how we internalize the demands of capitalism. This is a very thought-provoking book. It had a passage in it that just kind of like, it just sort of stopped my mind. And it was about the experience of, we're sort of constantly being inundated with all of these things that we're supposed to want for our home or for, you know, and that you just kind of go numb or something. I mean, it was just this, she's so able to capture the overwhelm of a society where we're just like needing the next beautiful, pretty thing, and how, you know, sometimes that kind of can leave us feeling a little bit empty. That sounds depressing, but it's really not. She's a funny writer. It's very personal story. The part on the jacket I liked was, my adult life can be divided into two distinct parts, she writes, the time before I owned a washing machine and the time after. So very good writing, really interesting book.
Sam read me a passage from that today in the store, and it's really just all about consumption and happiness, and looking at whether consumption makes us feel fulfilled.
Right, right. And Amy, I just want to say, please jump in. I don't know if you want to chime in with anything at any time. Please do. Awesome. Okay. This book is Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. It's by Catherine May. She's an English writer. And our wonderful rep, Wendy Pearl, really strongly recommended that I read this book. She thought it would be right up my alley, and she was right. What Catherine talks about is the opportunity that can arise during difficult times, and how we're sort of so trained to kind of be up and on and forward and everything's going great, but life knocks us sideways. You know, we lose a loved one, we lose a job, our health fails, you know, I mean, that's just part of life too, but we're constantly, you know, sort of juggling to try to keep everything up and fast and moving. And Catherine really encourages us to honor those times. And the metaphor she uses is winter, and how it's just natural part of the cycle of the year to get quiet, slow down, go internal, be a little more protective. and that there's opportunity there as well. And it's she explores her relationship to the natural world. She starts swimming in the freezing ocean. She makes a commitment to swim in the ocean every single day for a year, and she does it. Anyway, it's a really beautiful book. Someone described it as like a warm hug. So it's just kind of this perfect book for this time of year, and this year we're having, couldn't be better timed as well. So just a beautiful, beautiful book, Wintering by Catherine May. And the last one that I'm reading, I felt a little hesitant, but then Mike reminded me that everybody probably knows someone who likes a good true crime. So even though it's a bit grim, I'm reading this book, We Keep the Dead Close by Becky Cooper. And when Becky Cooper was a student at Harvard, she heard these whispers about a murder that had occurred on campus in 1969 when an anthropology student was found murdered in her room. And 40 years later, nobody was ever convicted of the crime. And it remained a mystery. And Becky became totally fixated on this woman's story and why it was never solved. The murder was never solved. And so for 10 years, it just consumed her life. So it's one of those interesting true crimes that's as much about the writer and what happened to her getting involved in this story. It's really well written. It got huge praise from Ron Chernow, from Patrick Keefe, who wrote Say Nothing, which was one of our favorite books in the store. So anyway, if you have any true crime buffs, this one is a really good new book. And that's my second stack. Take it away if anyone has another book to talk about.
Hi guys. I thought I would talk about my favorite dude. It is out on Tuesday. I am a huge Obama fan. I cannot wait to dive in. I have read his other two books, Audacity of Hope and oh my God, I'm forgetting the first book, but the one about his dad.
Dreams from My Father.
What is it, Mike?
Dreams from My Father.
Oh, I love him. And I am actually going to get the audiobook because I want to be read to sleep at night by Barack Obama. I am absolutely excited about this book. I think that it's what we need right now to see grown-ups who ran the administration and ran our country. So this is one that I think is one of the big must-gets for this holiday season. And it's called A Promised Land. And it's his first volume, which covers his early life and his years in the, his couple years in the Senate and his first term. So I highly recommend this if you've got anybody who's a political junkie or anything else. I mean, it's so worth the read. And going on my Obama theme, how many of you saw the Pete Souza documentary about his time at the White House? And right as soon as he left the White House, he started noticing how on Twitter, the current occupant was just so negative and stuff. So what he did is he started responding to all his tweets with pictures of Obama. So the joke was that Pete Souza was shading Trump. So last year, this book came out with all of the tweets of Donald Trump on one side and Pete Souza's response with the pictures on the other side of the page. And it's called Shade. And I think that we should all throw a little shade on that current occupant. So I think that this is the perfect gift for anybody who just wants a great picture book. And just some of those tweets are so funny. I mean, they're laugh out loud funny because it turns out Pete Souza's quite funny. So these are my two contributions right now. And I have one more in a little bit.
Awesome.
But take it away, Sam.
Thank you. Sarah, do you want to do any right now or should I do my... Oh, you're muted.
Okay, I've got two more and I can do them anytime you want. You want me to go
Anytime.
now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the other book that I wanted to feature is The Forest of California by Obi Kaufman. This is published by Heyday in Berkeley, and they did Obi's Field Atlas of California previously. This is like, I think it's actually a sort of classic coffee table book. Obi Kaufman grew up in the East Bay, and he's a naturalist and does amazing watercolors and travels and does these, scientific explorations and explanations of the different ecosystems within the California forests, but also, everything, even his graphs, his charts are gorgeous. But he also, within this perfect handwriting, has little bits of prose. It's really lovely, and it's not organized in a way that you would use to like go out with a field guide and like look up something on your own. But I would keep it on my coffee table and just open it and thumb through it. It's really lovely, and it came out, as California was burning down, and really just made me think about all of the forests, in Mendocino, up in Siskiyou County, and here closer to us, and all of the amazing wildlife and life in general that live in our California forests. How lucky we are to have it, and it's plenty of perusal time and a really great gift for anybody that also loves being out in nature or considers like doing field guide stuff. I've always wanted to be that person who had a watercolor set and went out and did it on the fly. And then the last thing I brought is this is new in paperback. It's Janice Joplin's autobiography or biography. I gave it to my mother-in-law, who's a huge Janice Joplin fan, last year in hardback, and she loved it. It's got all kinds of fun pictures, and and Janice had just a wild, amazing life, and really fun to read. It's definitely a roller coaster, and I would recommend it for the rock fans in your life. So, that's me.
That's you. Awesome. I was realizing too, we have the Elton John. Oh, it's right here. Look. Another great memoir that's now in paperback is Elton John's memoir as well. So just getting on that rock.
I think I should pop in because I have for those of you who have any Beatles fans in your world, 150 Glimpses of the Beatles. It's they're calling it the perfect book for this time. And what it does is it looks at history and it looks at what was going on in the Beatles' lives and their music, and it compares the two. So not only is it kind of a rock memoir, it's also it's a story of the time in which they were creating music and how their music really shadowed the time that they were living in. So it's called 150 Glimpses of the Beatles by Craig Brown. And it's one of those books that I think any music fan is going to love. Because who doesn't love the Beatles, right? So I think that's it for me, guys.
Thank you. Okay, I have a few more, and this category would be more like maybe part of my wish list, my book wish list for the holiday season. The first one is called The Unidentified: Mythical Monsters, Alien Encounters, and Our Obsession with the Unexplained by Colin Dickey, who is the author of a book called Ghostland. And I heard him interviewed on some show, on NPR probably, I don't know. But he's exploring the fact that these stories and the deep desire to believe in them, it just never goes away. Like, people still believe in the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, and we really want what he proposes is that we really want and need there to be mystery in the world, and as the world sort of continues to kind of get more and more explained, we want there to be things that defy explanation. And it's, I haven't read it yet, but it's one thing I love in here is he is a cultural historian and tour guide of the weird, which I loved. And one thing he says is he goes to a museum containing the last remaining evidence of the Great Kentucky Meat Shower. So he's exploring things that maybe are even weirder than the Loch Ness Monster, because I didn't know about the Great Kentucky Meat Shower, but this book just seems fascinating, really good read. And then this book we've had in the store for a little bit, and you know, I like Jerry Seinfeld. I of course watched Seinfeld when it was on, and but I was sort of like, I don't know, do I need to read a book? But I decided to start it, and I got totally hooked. He's sharing with us all of his best work, right? And it actually does translate. It's funny reading it as well, which kind of surprised me. Several times I've been laughing out loud. But it's also, he's telling you about the whole process of taking this work incredibly seriously and the effort that goes into being funny. I mean, it's kind of, you know, sort of go like, there are funny people. And, you know, he really is showing us, he's letting us inside the process of, is this anything refers to what comedians say, like they'll try a bit and then they're like, is this anything? Like, would this work? So I was really very pleasantly surprised with this book as I started it. So I think this would be great for fans of stand-up comedy and of course, Jerry Seinfeld. This next book is called Group: How One Therapist and a Circle of Strangers Saved My Life by Christy Tate. And this one, the most obvious connection would be the book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, which I read and loved. And this one, oh yeah, Sarah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, yeah, I love Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. That is also still available if you haven't read it.
Yes, it's a great book if you haven't read that one. And they make this great point on the cover, which is, if it takes a lot of courage to tell one person your most honest self, imagine the courage it takes to tell 6 people, you know, your most honest, raw self. So it's been getting great reviews. It's one of Reese's book club books, if that's something that translates for you. But anyway, it seems like a really, really interesting book about the power, the healing power of, you know, talking to a group of strangers and being really honest and learning how to trust and be vulnerable. So that one seems really good. And then the last one I think that I have right here is a memoir, When Time Stopped, a memoir of my father's war and what remains by Ariana Newman. And I heard about this book through Dani Shapiro's podcast, if you guys are familiar with Dani's memoirs. And she wrote an amazing memoir about learning that her father was not actually her biological father. This is Dani's book. And so Dani has started a podcast about family secrets. And so she interviewed Ariana on that podcast. And when Ariana's father, Hans, fled Czechoslovakia, and he was one of the few members of his extended family that survived the Holocaust. And he moved to Venezuela and rebuilt his life and became a very successful businessman, but he never talked about his past. Ariana didn't even know that he was Jewish. And when he passed away, she found a box of letters and diary entries and other artifacts, including an ID card that had his picture, but a different name. And so she became a detective in her own family history and learned what happened, what he survived. And it's supposed to be a remarkable book. So this is on my wish list as well. And I think that's mine, surveying. I think those are mine.
Hey, I'll go next. I'm going to talk a little bit about audiobooks here. So this is Mike. If you've met me at the store before and I've talked audiobooks to you, you know that I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And this is a great year to think about audiobooks as an option, because as we get closer to Christmas, with all of the stuff that's going on with the pandemic and shipping and just capacity, you can make audiobook decisions late in the game, which is helpful. And there's an incredible offer right now from Libro.fm, which is our audiobook partner. If you buy a 12-month audiobook gift certificate, your recipient gets 12 books, credits for 12 different books, and at $15 a piece, which is a very good competitive price. And that $90 of that immediately goes to the independent bookstore of your choice, and we hope that'll be a great good place for books. But it's a great way to support independent bookstores. So keep that in mind. We have a little display at the front counter that explains how to do that.
I also want to say that the Barack Obama is read by Barack Obama. So as Kathleen mentioned, her new good night stories.
Yeah, and so I started listening to A Promised Land today by Barack Obama on audiobook, and yeah, he's such a writer, and he's a great speaker, and it's great. One thing this year, a lot of us have spent time with books, about Black Lives Matter and all the related issues. Think about audiobooks as a way of thinking about it. A lot of people say, well, I'm really more into print books, but a lot of people are also learning to listen to podcasts. And one of the things I like to do is just put a nonfiction audiobook on in the background while I'm, doing chores around the house or running or driving somewhere. And if one of your goals for next year is going to be to get through more books, this is a great way to do it. Here's some choices that I would recommend. The Promised Land, obviously, I started today. I listened to John Lewis's Across That Bridge, which is just incredibly inspiring. He reads it himself, and so you get to hear about that incredible man. Cast this year is a follow-up on The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. Really powerful, really strong book. And one that I added to my to be listened to stack today is The Dead Are Arising. It's a biography of Malcolm X, and it just won the National Book Award for Nonfiction yesterday. So that book has gotten incredible reviews, and really looking forward to diving into that one. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, it can be lighter or lots of different kinds. I've got 3 kind of biography choices here, because one of the things I like is just having a kind of light, fun biography by interesting people. W. Kamau Bell is, you might know him from United Shades of America, I think is the name, or his podcast, Politically Reactive. And he's a Montclair area neighbor, so you may see him hanging out at the store sometime. But his book is just super funny, it's super great. Tan France, I love Phoebe Robinson. If you have heard the podcast Two Dope Queens, it's just hilarious, and her audiobook is hilarious as well. And if you're looking for a gift for, somebody who likes war books and the like, highly recommend The Splendid and the Vile. One other thing I just wanted to call out for you is next weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, from Wednesday through Monday, Libro has a promotion going on where if you spend $15 in an independent bookstore, including GGP, and send your receipt to them, you can get a free audiobook. And they are all mystery wrapped, as shown in this slide, but the audiobooks will be revealed next Wednesday, which they're giving away. And I actually know what some of these are already, but they're really great books. And this is a really great deal to get a free audiobook with $15 purchase in GGP next weekend. So that's
and I also wanted to
say.
to remind everybody that it's poetic that it's 15 because next Saturday is my 15th anniversary of owning GGP. And so we will have 15% off all day Saturday in the store on things that are in the store, but not on special orders. And we'll also have a little treat, socially distanced treats, but treats. And the treat will be in honor of my mom. So for those of you who didn't know, my mom was like the biggest supporter of me getting the store when I got it 15 years ago. She actually told me every night that I could do it when I told her I didn't think I could. So I consider her a big reason why GGP is thriving like it is today. And I certainly wish she was here to see it.
She's looking down and smiling, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
With comments, of course.
Sarah wanted me to also highlight something that we're doing that's a little bit new this year. This adorable little tin contains a gift card, and we're doing these for how much? 30?
Anything over $30, you get the reusable tin gift.
So, yeah, any gift card purchase $30 or more will come in this beautiful little tin while supplies last. We do have a limited number. So this is just a really fun way to just pop it in a stocking or something like that. So thank you so much for Sarah for doing all the bows and all that fun stuff. So there you go. Another fun gift idea. I think that's it. Oh, and then was there anything in the chat that we need to mention?
No, Beth's been throwing up all these great links to the podcasts we're mentioning.
Beth is like linking. That's so good. And how many copies on the first day? That has a lot of zeros. Wow.
890,000, I think. So.
Yeah, 890,000.
Nice. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll be back, not next week, because next week is Thanksgiving, but the following week we'll be back with fiction.
Yes.
So fiction will be very fun. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And I want to thank all of you who will eventually watch and listen to this. And remember, stay safe, stay 6 feet apart, and wear a mask.
It's nice to see the bottom of your faces, though.
It is nice to see people's faces.
Yeah.
But thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. I mean, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.